me Senior Advocate Mukul Ravatgi, eminent jurist, somebody who we all look up to in a sense, somebody who has served as the Attorney General of India, somebody whose number is on the first dial list of all leading corporates of India. You see him every day in courtroom, appearing for a big corporate or a B big corporate. Many times, my panel is up against each other in the courtrooms today. They are all very, in a sense, acquainted with each other this way. So, Mr. Ravatgi, your comments on media and law.
Thank you, Tarun. I've had the pleasure of hearing diverse views, and I will ultimately eagerly await the views of Justice Suryakant, because all of us are lawyers. He's the only one who will give the views of the bench. We don't know what the views are. So we should, I think, rush through our dialogues and ultimately give the baton to the judge. But my personal views. First, let us know what is media. It started with newspapers, radio, television, as Tankha said. From that, we went to these large TV channels. From that, we have gone to what is called the OTT. Since I have done some cases of Karanjawala and Company, I know what is OTT. OTT is called over the top. What is over the top? One which is not regulated by the censor board or by the press trust of India. What we have in the form of plays, music, serials, films on Netflix. Everybody knows Netflix. Now Netflix, you can access via Wi-Fi. It has no control. Every day there are cases now, people saying that such and such play, such and such movie is affecting religious sentiments and so on. So all kinds of cases are coming up. So how do you control the OTT? How do you control an online newspaper? Or let's say an online channel, news channel called The Wire. We are all familiar with it. So you have online newspapers, you have online information centers, and the reach is across the world. And as Tankha said, it comes by satellite. And I may tell you that now, soon we are going to have a Wi-Fi by Elon Musk, which will be via a satellite. So you won't need any fiber to come to your house and this and that. So that's today the reach. Because of technology, that's the reach of media. We are still traditional people, we like to read the newspaper. But let me tell you, over the last 1 year, I haven't read a physical paper. I now read a paper on the net. 1 year ago, I could barely use a computer. But I learned because of the exigencies. The judges must have learned. So we went to VC. We had a laptop. We had to understand how to operate a laptop. I took the help of my children. So I can now operate a laptop. I can read a file on the laptop. Currently, I'm doing it on an iPad. And I am sitting in the hills. There's no Wi-Fi here. So I know how to access through a hotspot. So I am now using 4G and hotspot minus a Wi-Fi to be on this show or doing cases in the court. So that's how the reach of technology, whether in the field of media, information, etc. That's where we have reached. And every day there are new and new things. Now, as these things grow, the lack of controls, because now these are beyond borders, national borders, state borders, international borders. So as these are all beyond these borders, how do you control? What do you do? So I send an SMS to somebody in England. That SMS is forwarded to 1,000 people. It creates a ruckus in that country. Now that country can't catch me. Can that country make a request, like an extradition treaty, to catch me because I have created something there? I have not created, I have not done anything wrong in this country. So how are these things going to, have a play? Traditionally, yes, the court always leaned in favor of press freedoms, starting from all those cases of Bennett Coleman, Indian Express, etc. But those were, if I may say so, a reasonable and a more responsible and a sensible approach of media. The original TVs, radios, newspapers, GTV channels. But the way the TV channels have grown, since they have grown and they have now 24-hour channels, and frankly, if you ask me, there is only so much that they can show. So they have to keep repeating the same thing over and over and over again. Now, the irresponsible part of the Indian media, let's only talk about that. I mean, I've just gave you a sweep of what the issue of media is. But the court has always stood by them, and full marks to the Supreme Court from the 1950s till today of standing by the media. But let's talk about it today. The problem today. The problem, we gravitate towards TV channels. I don't think there's much problem in newspapers. Newspapers are still the traditional form. The problem is you have a surfeit of channels. They have to show you the same thing. It's like Goebbels in the Hitler's regime of lecturing the same thing over and over again, so that some people start thinking there may be some element of truth in it. Now, the irresponsible part, and then we'll come to what should be done. The irresponsible part, some of the speakers have already touched. Somebody is arrested. Let us say a small person, not a big name, not a politician, not an industrialist, not a wealthy person, not a well-known person, not a poet. Somebody is arrested. The first thing that media will do is to sensationalize it. I mean, let us talk about a case, you must have seen, Justice Suryakant also might remember 10 years ago, of Dr. Talwar, husband and wife. Their daughter was found murdered. I had something to do with that case in the Supreme Court. Now, the way that couple was painted black, that they were murderers, they told me, now that they've been acquitted, they told me that we have stopped going out of our house. We don't meet anybody. Nobody wants to meet us. Nobody wants to call us. And they were dentists. So they were painted black day in and day out, channel after channel. There is no control. Nobody can say anything. And gullible people, normal people, if you are shown the media again and again and again, start believing, well, there must be something wrong. Why will a channel go like this? So I'm just giving an example. There are millions of examples. Take the recent Rajput case. I mean, is it such a great case that it should attract the attention of the nation for days on end? I mean, doesn't the Supreme Court, High Court and the lower courts do cases of NDPS day in and day out? You think that they are transformed in this fashion, sensationalized just because there's some actor who died, and also not, I mean, a great actor of that fame. Somebody died, so sensationalized. I mean, everything. I mean, so it's all right. Your job is to present facts. Your job is not to become a judge or an accuser and say this, that, or the other. The man's reputation is damned. I mean, he may succeed later. Who cares? I don't think the Talwars would have gone back to a normal life. Even today, 15 years have gone back. It takes a lifetime for a reputation to be built. Whether it's a lawyer, a judge, an architect, or anybody for that matter. It takes a lifetime. But it takes what? Half a day to destroy it. If somebody is destroyed in that fashion, he walks to a street or goes to a movie or goes to a restaurant, people say, oh, here is Mr. X. He is the man who's accused of this. It's only an accusation. And the court, the channel will go hammer and talks. Now, if this is so, what is the answer? The answer has to be in regulation. Within the norms of freedom. Every freedom must bring with itself a sense of liability and responsibility. How will it come? Either it comes from within. We have seen within, I keep seeing tickers on the channels that we abide by the rules of this association which Singhvi was talking about. But I don't think it really matters. People have started saying that such and such channels are far more sensationalist than others. So internal regulation hasn't helped. The press trust hasn't helped. If the government comes down with a heavy hand, you say that the government is choking freedom of press. If the court comes down against such irresponsible things, when matters are going on in court, you are painting the victim black. You have convicted the victim, the court will decide later. A gross violation of fundamental rights. Every accused has a fundamental right. Every person jailed has a fundamental right. That's what the Supreme Court has said. So internal regulation hasn't helped. If the government comes down with a heavy hand, the government is accused of choking. So what is the answer? In my view, it's a very difficult nut to crack because of the expanse of the reach of these channels and the way they are now entrenched. The government can't say, now let's have only 5 channels. That's not possible. Or every channel to give news for this time and you see, amusement for this time. So according to me, the government must, and it's very difficult because technology takes over. All these acts which we've got, cable acts and all, they're all old acts. They're kind of, outdated. We have just now started with some new IT rules which have been challenged across the nation. What you require in the government is to have a body to constantly monitor the reach of this media and frame some liberal rules by which they must abide on pain of penalty. The sub judice rule, contempt rule, so on and so forth, which are well known, they must. And for these foreign channels or foreign social media companies, they will have to share some responsibility by having, like a establishment in India, what in tax you call an establishment, a PE. So something like that here, so somebody can be taken to task even if you're sitting in America or elsewhere. So that is the need of the hour, to have a regulatory body here. Lastly, what should be the role of the court? The court has always protected them. The country is grateful to the Supreme Court for protecting them. But from 1950 to say the year 2000, there was no bad boys, so to say, or these irresponsible part of these channels wasn't there. It's occurred in the last 20 years. So according to me, the court must come down firmly and make 1 or 2 examples by saying you cannot make somebody's reputation mud. You cannot convict an accused of an FIR by saying that we have convicted him. The court must come down, set an example. Maybe they will evolve themselves and have some kind of internal regulation. Now we talk about contempt. In England, the Contempt of Court Acts has been abolished. They don't believe in contempt. The spy catcher case was an old case. Now they don't have contempt. We still have contempt, and contempt is required till people or society comes of a particular maturity. So the 2 rules that you can criticize a judgment but not the motive of the judge is very, very clear. But there is a third angle. Suppose I was to say, I'm just giving an example, that the court seems to be lax and the court has upheld many judgments of the government which it should not have upheld. Suppose I say that. What would that be? Suppose I say that the court has not taken up some very important issue at a particular time, which is the need of the hour. How would you describe that? Is that contempt? There is no accusation of a judge. There is, you could call a criticism of an institution. Could you say that the institution is not discharging the role it was supposed to discharge? Or that it is sided more with the authority than with the citizen? So that's probably the only grey part of the contempt law which kind of remains. The other parts are very, very clear. So I would end by saying self-regulation has not helped a lot. Some regulation is required to be there, liberal, but within the fold of 19(1)(a) read with 19(2). And the court may also set an example to put these people in line insofar as reputation, which is also a part of Article 21 today, is to be maintained. That's the only way, because the media and the reach of technology has crossed all borders exponentially. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rodgi, for have this in-depth analysis of this issue and sharing your free and frank views. The top four arguing councils of India have spoken. We've heard their views in the past hour. Now we go on to Mr. Ran Karanjawala. He's managing partner of Karanjawala and Company, one of India's leading litigation law firms. Sir, if I may ask you to please share your opinion on this topic of media and law.
So, Tarun, when I was looking at the topic, when I got it, media and the law, I chose to make a small twist, and I've chosen to sort of deal with one specific aspect of it, which is the courts and the media. How have the courts and the media interacted over the years? And then I'll deal with one of the problems that Parag suggested and take further the solution that Mukul gave. So, if I were to look at things in a chronological way, when Mukul and I both left Government Law College, he in 1978, I in 1979, to come back to Delhi and join the bar here. Mukul joined the High Court, I joined Praveen Parekh, and therefore we was practicing predominantly in the Supreme Court. Both the bar and the bench were very, very different creatures from what they are today. Just to give you an example, the Supreme Court had only 4 courtrooms right there in the beginning. Secondly, the council's fee, much to the horror of everyone else here, was a fixed fee. It was something that Motilal Settlement had laid down many years ago, 2 decades ago, as what a senior counsel's fee in the Supreme Court should be. So it was 1,140 for an admission. It was 1,650 for a final hearing. Those days at 10:15, 10:20, when we walked across to the corridor of the Supreme Court and looked down at the car park, there were 8 or 9 cars. This just gives you the sheer contrast of where things were then and where things are now. But the biggest contrast is if you were to pick a newspaper of those days and if you were to pick a newspaper of today. In those days, you could read a newspaper for 10 to 15 days at a stretch and find there would be no mention of the courts at all. In fact, I think many newspapers never had something called a legal correspondent. All these are things that have evolved over the years. And of course, newspapers led to TV, which in turn led to many, many channels. And today, therefore, you find the courts being reported about in almost every TV channel. It took foresight on Kartikeya's part to decide well in advance, way before the other channels did, that perhaps the time has come when a TV network must have a legal show of its own. And I must compliment both Kartikeya and you, Tarun, for the kind of legal show that you people have been able to produce. Legally speaking, has been able to achieve what many corporate clients of mine have always wanted to do. There have been so many corporate matters in which my firm has briefed the eminent counsel of their time. So there's a Singhvi, there's a Symbol, there's a Mukul, there is a Salve, and everyone has always come and said, yeah, can't we just have a joint conference? Can't you get them all into one room and let's have a conference with all of them together? And we always said, no, boss, we can't achieve that because they're all, too difficult to handle. Tarun, you and Kartik have been managed to time and again, week after week, get all these councils in one place, giving their views on the topic of the day. So I must congratulate you both. And this endeavor that we are here today to inaugurate is a further step in that direction. But of course, one of the things that has happened as a result of this sudden spate of litigative news is the problems that the media has had in the way in which the media has reported some of the cases. Now, there has been always, and in recent times, the courts have been very concerned with what they call a trial by media, which is something that Mukul also mentioned. In Arushu Talwar's case, it was my firm which was which was on record. Mukul was the senior counsel, and everything that he has said is absolutely correct. It ruined those people's lives. It made their acquittal far more difficult, though ultimately the High Court acquitted them. There was another case of Sanjeev Nandas, which is that R.K. Anand case where we came on record way after R.K. Anand was removed. That was another case of trial by media. The other cases Parag mentioned was the case of Sahara. Again, trial by media, people sensationalizing, things like that. So the question that has to be asked is, in today's context, when you face this problem, what is the solution? And the solution is something along the lines which Mukul suggested. Why is there a trial by media? Why is there this sudden desire to break news? Because you want the first TRP, you want the greatest revenues, you want to sensationalize because you realize then sensationalizing is what gives you the eyeballs, which gives you the TRPs, which gives you the revenue. Now the time has come to put a stop to that. And the only way one can do it, according to me, is if a body is constituted, which has the power. Don't give them the power to sentence people to jail. Don't have that penalty imposed. Don't give them the power to cancel anyone's license. Just give that body a power to oversee how a media has reported a particular case and penalize them heavily. Follow the money, as they said in Watergate. They have done this in order to get their TRP ratings. If ultimately you are able to establish that what they did was wrong, if you're able to establish that their conduct was contumacious, if you're able to establish that they deliberately misbehaved only in order to get an unfair advantage, then go ahead and penalize them heavily. So that then everybody, every journalist, when he steps into before the camera, realizes that he doesn't want to say something which will ultimately affect financially the people he works for. Every newspaper, every channel owner, every newspaper owner, everybody will be extra careful when they deal with it, and there will automatically be a more careful way of reporting cases in court. So to sum up, the media is completely free in the sense there's no penal proviso by way of jail sentence, etc. But nevertheless, it's like damages in defamation, except that this is by an authority. There is no interpersonal distinction. Somebody puts a complaint before the authority, maybe a retired Supreme Court judge or a panel of judges or whoever the authority is constituted, goes into the matter, holds an inquiry, says, no, this particular conduct was contumacious. All right, we impose a fine of 3 crores. 2-3 fines of such dimension, and automatically you will find over a period of time, the enthusiasm of the reckless reporter suddenly subsiding. You will find the enthusiasm of the reckless newspaper owner suddenly subsiding. And I think that is one of the ways to deal with the problem at hand. Thank you.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.